आइए हम सुने विज्ञान की अनकही कहानियां।
Dr. Hridaya Chauhan is cracking open nature's cryptic code. Armed with a geologist's hammer, microscope, and a visionary's curiosity, she isn't just studying rocks, she's hunting for clues to humanity's future. From lithium, the white gold powering your phone and electric cars, to rare elements hidden in volcanic stones, her work reveals how these landscapes might hold the keys to a greener and a cleaner world.
Hi, my name is Dr. Hridaya Chauhan, and I'm working here as a scientist C in Wadia Institute of Himalayan Geology. And I have joined this institute in July 2023. And I have done my PhD and masters and BSc, everything from Department of Geology, University of Delhi. And basically, I have done PhD in the area of igneous petrology, and I have worked on the basement TTG rocks of the two different cratons from the Central India Shield, and that was my PhD area. And during that I went to abroad also many a times for the collaboration work and also for the conferences. So I have presented my research work there, and during my PhD I was getting this SRF fellowship and junior research fellowship from the institute. I am working on the igneous petrology field, as I mentioned. So basically, what I am doing, I am working on the Ladakh rocks, okay, on the magmatic rocks. So what are magmatic rocks? Magmatic rocks includes both the mafic and felsic rocks. So basically, felsic rocks are those which have the very light colored minerals. A rock is made up of minerals, okay, and mafic rocks are those which are made up of the mafic minerals, right? So we are basically working on the evolution of the Himalayas and how the Himalayas have been formed with the help of studying all those magmatic rocks, that what is how they have formed with the different time domain with the help of various instruments. So we do this kind of studies with the help of optical microscopy, where we do this a petrographical study. First of all, we take the samples, we go to the field for maybe it depends that where we are going, but we go for more than 20-25 days. We go to the field, and then we select our areas where we get the different type of rocks. So what is our research objective, that should be very clear. And then when we go to the field, we collect the samples should be very fresh and they should not be altered and everything. And after the collecting the samples, we take these samples to various research labs, okay. And those labs, we have the various good facilities here in Wadia Institute. We have XRF lab, we have ICPMS lab, we have this thin section labs. So then we bring our sample to these labs and we do this cutting of the samples, and then we start our research. So at first we do the microscopy work, means we cut the rock in a thin section, and then we check that what type of minerals are present, and whether is there any texture, and whether it has anything to deal with the mantle, like the earth has core, mantle, and crust na. So we deal that what type of minerals are present. For example, if it is coming from the continents, the composition will be different, the minerals will be different. If it is coming from the mantle, the composition will be different, okay. So first we try to identify those minerals using the optical microscope, and then we do this XRF. Now, what is XRF? XRF is X-ray fluorescence. Through this technique, this is the basic principle that how it works, and in that we try to find the elemental compositions in the form of weight percent, okay. But it is the bulk composition of the rock. For example, how much silica is present, how much magnesium is present. And if we have felsic rocks, we have higher percentage of silica. But if we have mafic or ultra mafic rocks which come from the mantle, so definitely it will have more of mafic mineral. So that we analyze in our XRF lab, which is there in the Wadia Institute. Then we go for the trace element analysis. Again, it's a very nice technique which is already there. We have instrument here which is the latest one. We have this triple quadrupole ICPMS, through which we analyze the trace elements. which is less than 0.1 percentage. So through that instrument, there are various steps to follow, and we do basically the dilution of rock, and then we analyze the how much is the rare earth elements, for example. Okay, so what are the trace elements, how much concentration is there, what are the rare earth elements present. So these are the various steps we follow. And then there is another instrument which is EPMA. We have this instrument, but currently that is not functional, but we are trying our best to make it functional. So we do that analysis in maybe like in IITs or BHU, or sometimes abroad also. So yeah, then we do, and in that we try to find the composition of the mineral. Like earlier in XRF, we used to find the composition of a bulk rock, but in that we try to find the compositions of a mineral. And then after that, we interpret and we say that that was the tectonic setting, and that was the history, that was how it has formed, depending on the all the chemical compositions. So we combine everything. And then yes, one important thing I forgot to tell is the isotope geochronology. We also date the rocks. Okay, so what is the age of that particular rock in which it has formed? So in my PhD, I have done that Archean rocks, dating of those Archean rocks. So I have found 2.6 million years old rocks. Yeah, I have dated them by using a uranium lead technique. I went to Apatity, Murmansk, Russia. So I was there for 1 month, and I have separated this zircons. I mean, these are the minerals which are present, and then we date that. So we have dated that, and recently, I mean, currently also we are collaborating with the foreign people, so that for this dating techniques we have very high instruments. Like I was prior to this joining this institute, I was in Inter University Accelerator Center. It's in New Delhi. So it is basically a lab where we have a very good mass spectrometers, okay, and where we date the rocks. So that they have in India, that was the first place where this HR SIMS came. So it's basically a mass spectrometer where we use the dating of the rocks with a very sophisticated manner and very high precision and accuracy. It is definitely very important and very useful if we talk about in terms of the economic minerals. If we are looking for a suppose a rock, and if there is a mineralization, okay, like we are talking about the lithium, it's very much in news nowadays. As everyone knows that we are it's in a high demand. So if we are talking about a rock, and if we are doing the detailed study of a minerals, and with the help of those instruments like I mentioned, if we'll do the detailed study, so if there is any lithium mineralization or uranium mineralization, so in term of mineralization perspective, and if there is any traces of gold, okay, so with the help of those rocks, that's a very important factor which is in high demand, and I'm sure in future it is very much required to know that is there any economical use of all these rocks, and what I mean, is there any kind of that we can prospect, or we can do some kind of more detailed drilling or mining if there is any kind of this kind of minerals are present, so that we can study only by this methods only. That is the first step to identify. If we are not able to identify, how can we choose an area? Like in past, I was working on the basically on the Central Indian Shield. Like I mentioned, I worked on the basement rocks, which was the first rock to be formed when earth was evolved. So I worked on those rocks in my PhD. So I was very fascinated to work on those rocks, and it was again a very very nice experience, because I had those papers are already online. So if there are two cratons which are adjacent, okay, but we are saying that in both the adjacent cratons we have the basement rocks which was first evolved. So when earth was evolved, the first rock to be formed was TTG. And then I wanted to know that whether those adjacent cratons have the same kind of composition or the different composition. So it was very interesting to see that yes, it was different. So earlier it was said that those two cratons were part of the same protocontinent. Okay. But we found that indeed there was some kind of deformation and some kind of episodic activity which has taken place, because these TTGs are different from those TTGs. The composition is same, but the overall the texture, the mineralogy, that was different. So that was my that I have done in my PhD, and I have done the dating also. And then of course I am still keen to do a lot of work on in this perspective, and now I am working on the Ladakh rocks. Okay, so the main thing is that I am working on the dikes and the magmatic rocks of the Ladakh, Western Ladakh terrain. And we want to know that whether those dikes have anything, anything in common with in relation to their adjacent rocks, or how it has formed. Because interestingly, I found that those in those dikes and one area, for example, there were different kind of dikes. The dikes were not same at all. So this is also one of the very important objective which one should look after, and if there is any economical perspective to it. Another thing is that we on larger scale, if I would talk about, so I'll say that on larger scale, the thing is that those if we are talking about the dikes and the Ladakh, Western Ladakh rocks, how they are different from the eastern ones. Okay, because how this evolution has taken place. And also I am in a collaboration with one of my friend who is in Cotton University. He's working on the completely eastern Himalayas. Okay, so then in future, that is my very important goal, to actually try to track the history, that how the whole evolution of Himalayas has taken place. Because in eastern Himalayas we were the first one to report high magnesium andesites. Earlier it was not reported. And then there were people who used to call one, there was one outcrop, there was one kind of a rocks which we have identified as ore. We have done the ore chemistry also, and we found that it was a totally an ore body. Or so we have done some kind of geology here also. So in future I am like I'm very eager to basically understand and to do the modeling of connecting the pieces of that puzzle, that how the Western Himalayas, the completely the northeastern Himalayas are related, and what are the tectonic model basically, and the petrogenesis, that how it has formed. So we are as good as others, how they are doing and what they are doing. Basically the instrumentation and the analysis part is more or less the same. And in fact I would say that we are fortunate enough to be a part of this beautiful country because we can right, we directly can connect to the Himalayas. Okay, but for other countries it is quite difficult, like for Poland people, for example, if they want to do, they don't have this much of exposure to the Himalayas. So in that way I would say that we are still lucky in a way that we have such an good exposures in Ladakh, for example, if we talk about the Trans Himalayas. So yeah, we, by combining all the techniques and everything, we are doing in fact uh, good as compared to others, because we have this at our own country. So we are free and we don't have to take any permissions and all that. So yeah, like I mentioned, in terms of mineralogy and in terms of if we are talking about the mineralization, so yeah, they are looking forward to know about or to connect with some kind of for example, uranium mineralization, or is there, if there are any traces of gold, or nowadays lithium. So yeah, in that way we are trying to collaborate with them. And regarding the instruments and all those analysis, we are already collaborating with the people outside India. Yeah, I have more than 25 research papers, and I recently got IG Negi Young Scientist Award. And because there were two new findings, like through EPMA, we have developed a very new protocol to date the xenotime mineral using the uranium, thorium, and lead dating, which was earlier it was not the case, and people they never used to date the xenotime, and maybe they were not familiar with the mineral. But we have developed that protocol with a very high accuracy. And in fact one paper was there from the foreign the USA people. They have developed the same protocol, but they have used the very large crystal, which is not there with us, but still we have achieved that accuracy and precision. So yeah, so for that maybe I got that award. And then there was one another finding that we have found the high magnesium andesites in the eastern Himalayas, which never have been reported earlier. So there were 2 3 new findings from both the parts of the Himalayas. There's nothing like that a female cannot do that, and they have some problems. To be very honest, I am doing this field since our BSc days. And but yeah, I agree that there are less number of females. And of course, if you are married, you have have kids, you cannot go to the field, and there were many things. But I think if you are focused and if you are really interested, so nothing is impossible, and it's a very good opportunity because it directly connects you with the nature, and you are doing something extraordinary, like, because you are if contributing something to the nature and trying to find out the clues of your past. I think then fields and all these things are very interesting.
This podcast series on STEM popularization is supported and catalyzed by National Council of Science and Technology, Communication, Government of India. Produced by Media for Community Foundation. Technical support is given by Soumya Mishra.